Hey everybody, John Corcoran here from Rise 25 Smart Business Revolution, and in this video, I interview Brendon Lemon. He is a stand-up comic, currently based in Chicago, moving to New York next month. He actually also works in sales, so I interviewed him and I asked him about how lessons from comedy, lessons from being a stand-up comic can be integrated into the world of sales, and how you can use lessons from comedy in being a better salesperson, whether you're a salesperson or not. Everyone's in sales in one capacity or not. So we talk a little bit about that. So here you go. Here is Brendon Lemon. So let's talk about that a little bit. How do you, how how can sales teams integrate uh, lessons from stand-up comedy in order to do a better job?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a few different ways to do it. I think the first is that you have to recognize that sales is performative at some level. So, knowing your talk tracks, knowing your answers to questions, knowing your pitch, all of those things look a lot like stand-up comedy. They look a lot like a joke. They look a lot like a bit. A bit is a few jokes strung together. They're really very similar. And I think like I think my big revelation when I started work, because I did comedy way before I started doing sales, but my big revelation in sales that led to a lot more success was I was like, the treating your audience, the specific person you're speaking with or you're pitching, whether that's a cold call or an email or someone in person, like an audience and trying to read them was a lot like just being on stage. The two were really similar.
So you treat your cold call like you're on stage. So are you trying to warm them up? Are you trying to make them laugh?
Yeah, if you can get them, I mean, if you can get somebody to laugh in the first few seconds of you speaking with them, in the first 30 seconds of a cold call, they're going to listen. They're going to give you another minute on the phone.
How do you do that?
You can do it in a number of different ways. Self-deprecating humor is helpful.
Okay, sure.
Being honest.
Poking fun at them as soon as you get them on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. This is like, yeah, I wouldn't try to do that.
Man, your voice is really husky.
Yeah. Am I talking to a man? I wouldn't, I don't think I would lead with that question. Yeah, the self-deprecating humor is helpful. Calling out, like one of the things that, okay, so, so sales is at some level, sales is leadership.
Yeah.
You're leading your prospect through a place that they don't really understand. If you're a salesperson, you have an asymmetrical relationship in the knowledge of the space that they're going into. Probably that's what most sales I'd say would be. Yeah. And you have to get them on board with what you're talking about. You have to sell yourself first. And nobody's going to buy into, that's called ethos, by the way. Nobody's going to buy into you as a salesperson if or where you're going if they don't buy into you first. The same thing is true with a comedian, that if you step out on stage, if you just look ridiculous, if you look like you don't know what you're doing, if you look like you're worried about grabbing the microphone, like you said yourself, like yesterday with the guy with the microphone, if he had walked up there and looked unsure about what he was about to do, nobody would be paying attention to him pitching the class to you, basically.
Yeah.
The same thing is true when you're telling jokes. If you look unsure about where you're going to lead the audience, nobody is going to go there with you.
Yeah.
So a way that comedians handle that is by calling out things in the room, and that's a way that basically is good to do on a sales call early, is to call out things that are actually happening in the moment. Like, you know what? I can tell you do not want to take this call right now.
And that gives you greater credibility.
Well, it can, because you're trying to build trust.
Mm-hmm.
And if you recognize that you're like, look, this is as awkward for me as it is for you, mm-hmm. You can build a lot of rapport very quickly by simply resonating emotions with the person you're speaking with. That's the same way that I would do it in comedy. If I told a joke that bombed and it was my first joke, I'd go, okay, so we're going to start over now. Yeah. And just let the whole crowd know that it didn't go by you, that didn't work well.
Yeah. But how do you know when to acknowledge that and when not to? Like, sometimes it doesn't get as big a laugh as you want, but you don't want to every time. This is more of a comedy question than a sales question, I guess.
Yeah.
But maybe there's parallels.
Yeah. So how do you know when to not acknowledge something didn't just go well?
Right. Yeah, it was enough of a bomb that you really need to acknowledge it.
Yeah, you just, you have to refine that over time. I mean, like it's not a great answer to the question in terms of like somebody couldn't take it away and then take it in their own life. But the truth is this, any comedian you've seen has done the bits that they're doing in front of you probably hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And they know when you need to have, I have jokes. I just did the stand-up comedy in Paris recently, as you know. And one of the jokes that I talk about how I was once in front of an audience of Italian people that were going crazy. And I'm like, they're slapping their legs, they're elbowing each other, they're going nuts at my material. And I go, kind of like the opposite of this audience right now. Like, but that joke only works if the audience had only kind of semi-laughter through part of the bit.
Yeah.
So I told that joke one night in Paris, but I had been killing. And if I had told that, it wouldn't have resonated as true for the audience.
Yeah.
So I had to change the language and simply move on.
Yep. There, Brendon.
And the truth is that
you kind of cut out there. I don't know if it cut out.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, but you said you had to change the language.
Yeah, I had to change the language to fit the audience because I needed the bit to resonate in a specific way. And if I had said something, they would have known that it wasn't true. And what you're doing is you're trying to, as a comedian, consistently relate on an emotionally accurate or true level. You want it to resonate with the audience. And the same, I say, would be true of especially early pipeline sales, that you should do your pitch so many times that you know exactly how to do it for different audiences. There's no one pitch. This is what I tell my salespeople. There's no one pitch. There's no perfect pitch. There's perfect pitches. You're going to talk to the head of loyalty in a different way than you're going to talk to the head of technology.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks like both the word choice.
You got kind of like one structure down that you customize as you're going through it.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly true. And so, and word choice is very important in both worlds.
Absolutely, right? I mean, the language that you use to articulate emotions, feelings, ideas, incredibly important.
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, like, that's at least the big lesson that I had was if you look at somebody picking up the phone in a cold call as you're on, the spotlight just turned on you and you got 15 seconds to get something from that, or to really to give something to that person. It can really, if you look at it that way, new opportunities open up in terms of things you can do that can help give that person more reasons to want to continue the conversation and actually develop a relationship, which could result in you guys doing business together.
All right. Good advice, Brendon. Where can people learn more about you and everything that you do?
Go to BrendonLemon.com. Check out my comedy special.
BrendonLemon, correct?
Yep, that's it.
Brendon Lemon. All right. Thank you, Brendon.
Thanks, John.